Should we interview you?
No.
What?
Really?
No?
Yeah.
Oh, guys.
Is that a yes?
My name is Valeria Nuyanzina, and I'm going into 4B this summer, so I guess I'm in 4th year. Yeah, Rome was a very vivid, saturated time. I feel like very amazing. Felt like just like a vacation with the whole class on one side, but also a really inspiring place and inspiring time in terms of creating project and always drawing, and in that sense was very fulfilling. I think my favorite memory as like a framed thing in my mind forever will be when we all arrived to the South trip after a deadline for the first project, and everyone was in the same kind of light mindset, and I just remember walking to the beach and everyone was just so ready to go and jump into the water. I'll never forget that moment and there were like, the sky was changing colors and you could see mountains in the distance, and the whole class was just laughing together because we couldn't believe that that's happening to us. So I'm working in the evidence room, making molds to cast plaster. The evidence room is an exhibition kind of analyzing the worst crime committed by an architect. Yeah, I think photography is my strongest interest. Just always experimenting with film. And I think I always thought of it as a separate thing a couple years ago, but now I think it's like one of my tools of observing architecture and environments around. So I like that I can experiment with different film cameras, and mostly double exposure is my favorite technique. So
thank you so much.
No, thanks guys, that was very sudden.
Oh, those TV screens? Yeah, this is for you. Sure. Yeah, okay. Sorry about the mess.
My name is Josh Macdonald and I'm a 3rd year. I'm a 3A student doing the mid-rise studio project right now. I guess usually it's like hyper density and whatnot, and I'm basically trying to look at how can you not do that, and how can you create a public space within a building without creating like these unintentional barriers that come with the privatization of buildings. So I'm looking to elevate the public realm and create kind of a transparency between the exterior and the interior of the building. My first one was in Copenhagen, Denmark, and then my second one was in San Francisco. Definitely for Copenhagen, like it was good work and everything, nice little family experience because it was a small firm, but just being in Europe, and especially Copenhagen's like huge, like design-wise and everything, so culture was amazing, biked everywhere, is great. In San Francisco, the work was fantastic, firm, I could go back there easily, but like San Francisco was great, but like outside the city there's hiking, there's a national park like every 2 hours away, so like that was the dream for me, so yeah, it was good. Currently I'm going to be going to Rotterdam for next co-op, so excited for that, and back to Europe, and hopefully now being more central, it'll be cheaper and easier to go to other countries. It was a bit of a slap in the face, it was good. I don't know, you kind of go in thinking you know what you're doing, and then you get to a certain point and then you realize you really don't. And no, it was a good reality check, and more or less in the studio sense, it's been kind of like it was a good lesson at that point, and then since then it's kind of changed around, so. Well, the panini press. It's a staple. I actually got my sandwich here ready to go. It's a conversation piece, you know, and it's always good when you got a nice warm sandwich at lunchtime. It like warms your soul, brings up the morale.
Nothing better than a hot lunch, right?
Yeah, you know, it's cheaper than Melville. That's what you do.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how about you? Can we interview you?
Be in the back.
Colin Williams, 1B. I'm from Fredericton, New Brunswick. Yeah, it's a little far from home. It's nice. It's not actually that much different than home in terms of feel. It's a nice old city with some exciting things to do. So I'm enjoying it. The highlight? I think generally just the people I've gotten to know. I've made some pretty good friends. And other than that, we've just had a overall good time at the school. So for the 1B final, we had to design a library on a site in Toronto. And I sort of went with this heavy timber structure focused library. And I had my crit today, and it went better than I expected. So I'm fairly pleased with how that went. Sometimes crits can be a little nerve-wracking, so to have a crit go better than planned is always a nice thing. Okay, so a crit, which is an abbreviation for critique, is the process of examining your project with an adjunct or a professor in the school or a guest adjunct, and you look at the strong suits and the weaknesses of your project, and generally you're suggested with different ways to improve upon those things to overall help you become a better architect. I'm actually an amateur shoemaker. So in my spare time, I taught myself how to make shoes for myself initially, and then it turned into a business, and now I sell custom handmade shoes to customers all across Canada and in Miami, Los Angeles, and across the United States. And luckily, I still have enough time left to do that a little. So
That's great.
I think for first years, I would tell them to try and be balanced and find a way to still do the things they enjoy doing so that they have time to let their brains sort of relax and de-stress from the demands of school. So whether that be working out or painting or doing whatever you love doing, I think it's really important to try and still find time for that. So. Working up to 2 of 5.
Hey there. Can we interview you?
Sure. My name is Anne Christina Sewell, and I'm in M2. Or do you call it TRD2?
Sure.
You chose the wrong person to interview. My thesis is set in Kenya, and it's looking at providing more accessible education to people living in rural communities. So over the design of kind of 3 different scales, spaces will be designed to be conducive to local exchanges of knowledge. They've actually been really good. It's hilarious testing things. I say, look at this with no explanation, and then they usually actually kind of understand it. I don't talk to them a lot, so I'd say, yeah, that I'm designing spaces to help accommodate for more accessible learning in the non-formal sense. And they usually get that. Oh, so good. Yeah, really good opportunity. It's interesting to see it from the other side, because for 5 years in undergrad, you always kind of look up to your TAs and you don't really know what happens, and maybe you're kind of scared of them in first year. Not that I was ever scared of them, I wasn't, but some people are. And you're reading and assessing other people's work, and you're kind of relearning the material, and then you also learn to read how people communicate differently, which is really interesting. I feel like in masters, you guys probably experienced this too, but yeah, you're kind of working with the professors. It's a different, it just feels different. It's a totally different program from the undergrad. Oh my God, I love waffles so much. They're just a little bit more work, but when you fluff the egg white, and then it gets crispy, so good, unbeatable. But I do usually make pancakes. Oh, I actually don't usually YouTube, but me and a couple other people watched this amazing rap by a Jamaican man, and he's rapping about a cucumber. I highly suggest you Google this. It's incredible. He talks about everything you could possibly talk about with a cucumber, and it all rhymes.
Can we interview you? Well, you're actually coming here for me. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Bryce Clayton. I guess I'm in M5 now, 5th term of Masters. In general, it's sort of taking a look at the vacant land that's within downtown Edmonton and then trying to use snow as a building material to use them as like experimental spaces for winter outdoor programming, for improving the day-to-day public life sort of thing. Right now, just trying to plow through and get my first draft done. At the moment, I'm working on a chapter where I talk about like the mechanical properties of snow, the way we can use it to shape wind, and then also what other sort of energy sources we kind of need to add in to make the environment a little bit better. Create little microclimates using these 3 materials. I did my architecture undergrad here. Before that, I was at University of Alberta. Got my undergrad in civil engineering there. Worked for 3 years, specialized in bridges. Tried that for a bit, then ended up coming here. The biggest thing is that in engineering there's a definite answer. You're trained in ways to approach a certain problem, and then there is a solution to it. And it's totally, it's totally objective. There is something you're aiming for. With architecture, it's kind of like, it's a bit more dynamic in the way you can sort of solve a problem. If it conceptually makes sense, then you can approach it in so many different ways, and solve the problem from different angles instead of just one approach. Just try stuff, like really broaden. Try ideas. If it's crazy, give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, that's fine. You have time to sort of change it in the end, but it's really a good time for experimentation. See what you can sort of do and push yourself. You might have a preconceived notion of what you're gonna do, but it's by no means what you'll produce. So really just sort of don't approach anything with a definite end in mind. Just try to come at it from all angles and then just discover what the solution is. Waffles. Pancakes are just ugly waffles.
Alright. You dying?
Hello.
Alright, would you like to be interviewed by chance?
But what? My name is Favour Adesina, first year, 1B, yeah. It was hectic, but like you get used to it, I guess. So, yep, I'm here now. I think the hardest part was accepting like the flaws you make and like accepting the criticism that you get from professors. So like that part's hard because it's like something personal that you make, right? And then someone's criticizing it, but you get used to it. Yeah, it was definitely way different because like you're more independent and you're more responsible for your mistakes and you get to experience the consequences faster than if you were in high school. I really like designing things. So like the thought of being able to design something that would impact people on a really large scale and always be there was really appealing to me. So I decided to go into architecture.
Great.
My advice is to be calm and be generally excited about your art because that's what they want to see. They want to see your passion and they want to see that you're just passionate about what you do. Just be comfortable around them and don't like try and be something you're not because they can tell. So, yeah. Oh, me apparently, because my little sister drew that, and she also drew that as well. She's quite the artist, yep. And that's me.
Hi. We're gonna interview you now.
Whoa, you've set up shop in here.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
My name is Hagop Terzian. I'm 3A. I'm working on my final studio, which is due in about a week from now. So my main concept for this project is the lamination and delamination of different slabs of my building and it's about experiential more so than the experiential of wait. It's more so. I'm not the right person to interview because I have an accent and English is not my first language. Oh, I speak Arabic. I speak Armenian. I speak Japanese, but a little bit. I speak what else? There's one more. French. 7 years ago, I thought it would be a good idea to learn a new language, and I thought, why not Japanese? Because it's fun, it's different, it's not something similar to anything I already know. Last term, I went to co-op in Japan, so I was actually able to use it, which is interesting and exciting. Yeah. My go-to is Melville coffee and muffins because it's the easiest thing you can get and it's the fastest thing you can get because the less time you spend on working on your project, the more you're gonna stuff over and so coffee and muffins and very unhealthy, by the way, sorry.
Oh look, hey, we haven't seen you before.
Oh,
Hey.
Hi.
Oh hi.
Hi.
Would you like to be interviewed?
An interview.
My name is Adriano. I am a 3A. That's a loaded question. I think it wasn't like what made you decide to study, it's what made you decide to stay. I was one of those people who came in or was convinced to do architecture because like I liked art in like a broad sense, and I was good at math. That's like the typical math and art, and it's in the middle. I hate that, like those Venn diagrams on Instagram. It's just like art, math, architecture. No, that's not how it is. It's but what made me stay was, I think, how it drew on my other interests. So I had always been interested in history, and specifically art history, and I've always been interested in how people behave in certain spaces. And I think, yeah, just realizing that architecture is something that goes largely unnoticed until it's very, very bad or very, very good. And striving to create those good spaces for people is probably what makes me stay. So I did my first co-op was in Toronto, and then my second co-op was in New York City for HLW, so it was a big international firm. The day I came in, I started working on electrical drawings in Revit. The reason I had been given that assignment was because they were building the tower so fast. So basically, by the time I had finished my co-op, they had gone from like, I don't know, the 10th floor to topping out at like 48. So it was really cool to see the tower I'd worked on go up. That was probably one of the highlights. And I saw it on Instagram the other day. Yeah, I am the studio barber. I have a near monopoly on the guys in my class. There's guys who cut their own hair, and then there's guys who still want to go somewhere else. Like Vincent. Vincent doesn't let me touch his hair. But Levi lets me cut his hair. Oh, Levi's for sure. Like, I've been really trying to find a way to link my barbering to architecture, and it doesn't work. It's just like something that I do on the side. It doesn't make too much money. Like, I think I could charge as much as like the rest of the barbers in town, but the whole idea of me starting to cut hair was that there was nobody in town that the guys in my class could trust.
Right. Cool. Oh yeah.
Did you get a haircut yet? Yeah, is that why he's wearing a hat?
Come on, can we interview?
This is so intimidating. Okay. Action. Yeah. So I'm Sameerah Aumjaud. I'm from Mauritius, and I just started my 2 years master's program at the University of Waterloo. I studied my 3 years in the United Kingdom, 3-year bachelor's, and then I worked in Mauritius, and then now I'm doing my master's. We're doing a studio with Andrew Levitt, so we're working on an urban project.
and in Toronto, in downtown. So regenerating like the piece on top of the railway tracks, and yeah. So hope it goes well. We have less than a week for that, so we'll see what happens. I have applied to a few places, mainly like the main places like Toronto. I have applied in Edmonton and Vancouver. I have got a few like 3 replies so far, like for interviews. Just waiting to see how it goes. It's very overwhelming, very overwhelming. Like it's like handling studio, handling co-op, but I guess it's a good learning experience at the same time. And it's a good like people contact as well, people interaction with the interviews and stuff, so that's cool. Yes, back home. So I worked 9 months, and this is my first time working in Canada. There's too many differences. It's crazy. Like in school, you can do basically whatever you want in the sense of your design and everything. Work, you can't. You have to follow what your supervisor wants you to do. So this is the main thing. And like basically, you think of doing a project at school. Yeah, everything goes how you want. Oh yeah, I want this there. It's gonna be there. But no, there's in real life. There's budget. There's time cost. There's people that want to be annoying as well. So yeah, there's a lot of that to deal with. So yeah. I actually had no idea what I was getting myself into when I started. You know, they just like throw you in the pit with the lions. It's like, yeah, okay, survive. I realized how I was always attracted to like social work in general. Then like I wasn't too sure why actually I did architecture. I just went for it. But then I kind of now I'm like liking it more because I realized that you can use that to help people, which is cool. So yeah, I think now I know what I want. It took me a good few years, but got it figured out. Interesting question. Oreos and milk. Yes, yes, that's like, just be crazy and think out of the box. I think that's what works the best.
Great. That's good advice. Thanks so much.
No problem.
Good luck with the interview. Yes. Oh, hey.
Just if we, this way is fine. Is that your desk? Previous cringes. Sorry, I got distracted.
Oh yeah, we've been in.
We'll have to look at that.
My name is Sarah Mason, and I'm in 1B. I'm from Guelph, Ontario. G-Town. So we just finished up our studio deadline on Tuesday, which is the most exciting thing ever. When we finished, I ran around the school 3 times outside because we'd been here for like a week straight just working on our projects. So it was just really good to have a release. And then it feels like a big weight has lifted off my shoulders. So it's really nice. So we were designing a library. So my library is underground. The whole party that I had for my project.
So a party is essentially the main essence of your entire project. It's the main idea in which all of your other decisions are based upon. And it's really the driving force that leads your product or your project from the beginning stages to the final product.
I was trying to think of ways that I could bring people to a library space that was kind of different. And so I thought of having a community garden as like one of the draws for people to come and use the space. And so in order to accommodate for that, I pushed the majority of my building underground with just the front threshold, like where you enter the building, to be above ground and then immediately go underground. I'm a bit of an environmental nerd. One of the main driving forces for me to come into architecture was the whole concept of environmental architecture and being sustainable through our work. And that's something that's really important to me. And it's something that in high school I struggled with because I would tell people that I wanted to go into architecture and they're like, but that's completely the opposite of everything that you have been like, you know, campaigning for, because I was part of all like the environmental clubs at my school and did all that kind of stuff. So they're like, but you're just going to go and build buildings which will destroy nature. And it's like, no, we're always going to need buildings. It's just the reality. So if we can design sustainably and smart and with the environment in mind, then that's probably one of the biggest impacts that I can have for the environment. So Okay, yeah, so, okay, yeah, I'll grab it. This is the cringe of the week. It's something that I started last term. I'm pretty sure I just make really lame jokes. You and I are like rainproofing on a wooden deck. Finished.
Oh wow, didn't see you there. Hey, can we interview you? All right. Great. Yeah, where's a good spot?
What a blues. I'm feeling the blues.
Hi, my name is Suhaib and I'm in TRD2. Decided to come here for the master's because of how open it is, how open the research is. It's a little bit different than other master's programs I found, where you kind of work really hard in the undergrad to learn all the fundamentals, and then when you get to the master's, it becomes a sort of freedom to research and explore whatever you want to explore about architecture. One of the best feelings I had was when we finished the chair, when we were supposed to build that chair. That was actually a really good feeling because you actually finished something and it was physically there and you did all the analysis on it, so you know that you could actually, sell this thing and not get sued, that it actually does what it's supposed to do, that it's going to exist to a certain standard. But then also the play, when we did the play, was really a special thing where you're working with your whole class to get this thing to happen, and our play was outside, so we were worried that it was going to rain. It was supposed to rain every day, and it didn't rain any of those days, but we had like backup plans to get everyone a parka and like what are we going to do if it's going to be raining, and we had a sound system, so we're covering our sound system that's along this like 500 meter, 600 meter long route. We were like covering it in garbage bags and all that, and it took a real united effort between the whole class, and that was actually a high point, and that was one of the best terms, I would say. I used to have a lot of interest. I would say now it's all related back to architecture. So I love music, I love art, I love martial arts, I like acting, all these things, though in some way, like I guess when you study architecture enough, you realize that they all relate. They're all about space and time. They're all about, have very similar things about composition, about rhythm, timing, all these things. They're kind of universal in a lot of these forms of expression. So I would say architecture is the one thing that I'm really concerned with, which is, for me, how do we operate in physical space and time, human time, let's say. No, I would if I was in first year.